Hey, welcome back, everybody. And guess what? The market is clearly showing that, well, spring is here and things are absolutely starting to kick into place. So let's get to it. All right. So a lot of folks have been asking, hey, George, what the heck is going on with today's market? Are we seeing an increase in activity? Are we seeing a decrease in activity? We're hearing a lot of things about, oh my gosh, like the inventory is up like 40%. And well, is that real? And if so, how come, sales, are they matching? Are they going down? And what's going on with real estate as far as with the mortgage industry, and how is it affecting what buyers are doing? Okay, we're going to go over all of that, and we're going to go through what to expect and some of the pitfalls to avoid. So get that hair out of there. All right. So when we take a look at this, it says early spring shows initial signs of market warming up. The Northwest MLS puts out their monthly update along with ourselves. So part of today, we will be going through some of those metrics. What they're saying here is pretty simple. Hey, listen, we've had an increase in activity. We've got an increase in inventory. Solds are up. We've seen market improvements year over year. And what we're looking at when we take a look at the actual activity, right? It says 30-year mortgage rates have dropped from 6.76 to 6.65 as far as a March highlight. A slight enticement for buyers who are keeping a diligent eye on the market. Sellers looking to take early advantage of the seasonal transition boosted Northwest MLS activity by nearly 44% year over year over 2024. Now, not surprising. Okay, so last year we had really limited inventory. This year we still have limited inventory, and we're going to take a look at condos and residential. Those are Northwest MLS numbers. We will also pull some aside and only look at residential, which is our primary focus each day. Although the condo market for condos under 600,000 are actually doing amazingly well. If we're looking at the luxury condos, they're not doing so well. They're kind of stale. They're not seeing a ton of activity. Those buyers are kind of waiting in the wings. As rates continue to get down a little bit further, we're probably going to see some of that change. However, right now, I don't expect much of that to change at all. So let's take a look at some of the other stats by some of the folks that were published. It says rising median house prices continue to exacerbate affordability issues. That was by Stephen Barossa from the Washington Center of Real Estate Research. He said in the first quarter of this year, median sales prices increased by 9.5%. Okay, well, then when we take the next one, when we take a look at Selma Hepp, who's with CoreLogic, she says, easing of mortgage rates into the spring home buying season has helped bring some of the home buyers off of the sideline. Yes, because we have more inventory, we have better rates, but they continue to say home buying activity will remain muted amid a lot of the economic policies and uncertainty of job futures. Now, to answer the question for a lot of folks, yes, mortgage rates hands down is one of the top 3 things that affect the real estate market in our area. And as far as buyer activity, that's a no-brainer for many of you. You're going, no kidding. Yeah, totally agree. In fact, as you're going to see some of the metrics, you're going to see how we are doing as far as rates keep coming down, things keep improving. Our rates will continue to keep coming down, even though the feds are going to meet a couple more times before July. I don't expect them to drop rate. And that is super important. Why? Well, because the feds do not control mortgage rates. Those are publicly traded. The feds only control credit cards, car loans. They're going to actually control your HELOC or home equity line of credits. They will affect those kinds of things, not the things that you need to be worried about on a day-to-day basis with mortgage rates. Those are affected by the stock market, what's going on in the world, and what the industrial investors are saying their comfort level is and where things are at. Watch your 10-year treasury. All right. So as we take a look at some of our top headlines. So look at that. Hey, lowest mortgage rates in more than 5 months. Our chart off to the top right is all green, 30-year fixed rate mortgages. That's showing a par pricing of 6.60, which was just about on target. We have a shift in demographics, and that is super important. It says, once again, baby boomers are making up the largest share of home buyers. That's super important to understand, because when we start to see a market shift, that many times is also the shift that we start to see where people are either buying rental properties or they're downsizing, they're buying to their downsize, or, you know, sometimes they're doing a lateral move into a better community. That is something that is a very consistent message, because first-time home buyers, they begin a cycle, they end a cycle. Now, we already had our beginning cycle, and we're seeing that. So we're starting to see the shift from first-time home buyers being the dominant folks in the market to the baby boomers or the move-up buyers. And those folks are now becoming dominant in the market. And then when we start to see that shift back to first-time home buyers, then we know that our market has seen that shift. We're starting to lean back into leaner times, potentially a recession, because that's how those two kind of play, depending on how and who is the most dominant. All right, when we come back into this and we take a look at mortgage rates, look, on Friday they were just a tad bit higher, but they've been bobbling around. Not a whole lot of bragging rights, other than the fact that we are absolutely lower, not only week over week, but from the year to date. And taking a look at where we're at, Freddie says, hey, our running 7-day average is 6.64%. Okay, that's pretty good. We're going to start getting down into the 6.25s here, I would say, in the next 30 days. That's my prediction. As things continue to head down, yeah, there's a lot of noise out there regarding tariffs and what's going to happen, and you know, the stock market took an absolute shellacking the last couple of days. Here's the funny thing: it always, as I tell folks, it always gets worse before it gets better. Always. You demo a house, it always looks worse before it gets better. No different here, and you got to let that thing cycle through. And you know, even though there's a lot of noise out there, there are some things we're going to see a short-term bump, but it's going to actually head back down, I think, in a more positive manner. When we talk about construction, again, when most folks are actually, you know, most of your big builders and whatnot, they're buying futures, and so they're seeing a lot of stability with market product that they need as far as timber and things like that. Other things are a little bit more dynamic and they're subject to current market trends. However, that is going to be, I think, a short-term thing, like only a few months, and then we're going to start to see that come back down. We're going to start seeing some leveling and whatnot, and I think our mid to late summer is still going to be a good market, all things considered. All right. Now, when we pop over, let's talk a little bit about absorption rates. When we talk about total months of inventory, look at that, man, we're down to 2 months of inventory. As you see that we've been heading in a downward trend really since January. The center chart at the bottom, yeah, last year we were 38 days on market. We've actually come down from 48 to 42 days on market. So we're only just a couple of days different, okay? When we take a look at the running 7-day average for homes, look, new on market, 1,041, totally seasonally normal to see our numbers pop up, okay? You're normally saying, hey, George, we're normally seeing 600, 700, sometimes 800. Yeah, this is the summer. This is the spring market. We're going to see 1,000 to 1,300 homes coming on market any 1 week. That's a Friday number. If I went back to Wednesday, it'd be about 700. Now, the key thing is when we take a look at the pended was 1,144 homes. So we still took off more homes. That is super consistent. When we take a look at that chart and you see that we have been in a downward trend with inventory, and we're pulling off more inventory than what is coming on. And again, this is super important to understand as we head into the future metrics here. Now, as we pop back here and we see some additional opportunities, look at that. We've got 472 price reductions for buyers. Look at that, man. There's 105 back on market. Make sure the person you are working with, the agent you're working with, is sharing that with you, because those are what we call a seller lost their buyer. That is a great opportunity. And, they absolutely want to be back under contract. And that gives you a really good opportunity to look at. Now, as we are going through these next set of metrics, we're going to change them up a little bit just because it's a little bit of fun. These are directly from the Northwest Multiple Listing Service, the NWMLS, or the Northwest MLS. And there's, it's going to be, I would say, a little bit of difference, because we're going to look at condos and residential combined. Okay. So the numbers are going to look a little different, and we have a couple other charts that are going to, be completely different. So let's pull this up in. All right. So as you can see here, where we have the two arrows, that's March of this year and March of last year. All right. And you can see that our inventory is up, and our activity as far as pendeds are definitely in a higher swing. Solds are definitely on the higher trend. When we take a look at that, we talk about total months of inventory with condos and residential, we can see that we have 2.2 months of inventory. Now, we had 2 months of just residential, 2.2 months of condo and residential, or, basically a little bit more than what we had last year. When we talk about actual solds, again, 2025, we actually sold more homes year to date than we did this time last year by a few hundred homes. And that, again, is just giving us a really solid trend. When we talk about pended sales, again, we're up on pended sales, roughly about 300, a little over that, homes where we were at this time last year. So again, condos on this chart actually have had a pretty big impact of condos that were below $600,000. Those homes actually been moving very well in March, and that did again contribute to a lot of our dropped inventory. So as we kind of continue on here, we take a look at new active listings, again, condos and residential. You can see that we've got a difference of basically 1,100 homes different year to date. That's not a whole ton of new, not existing, new on market. We have only had 1,100 year over year. That's pretty small, all things considered. Now we look at this chart, and residential is about 9,000-ish. It's 9,000 and change. And then, of course, last year was at about just shy of 7,000. Now, again, when people look at this, they're going to say, oh my gosh, that's a lot of homes. No, we're still about 4,000 less. Now, does that mean that our market, is starving for inventory? Not really. I think we're just very much a balanced market right now at 2 months. Yes, 4 to 6 months. You hear a lot of folks talk about 4 to 6 months. So if I have a bucket and everybody puts their listings in this bucket, I put a lid on it. Used to be 4 to 6 months was a balanced market between inventory coming off, inventory going off, or coming on and going off. There we go. Now, if, however, we're seeing very much the same thing, but at a 2 months worth of inventory, that tells me that that's a more balanced market. And it has been that way for the last 10 years. And that could be very much our new norm. Okay. Time will tell. All right. So let's get back on target here. So again, we have a seasonally normal uptick on home activity as far as overall inventory. And that is what also drove the higher sales numbers. Now, here's something that's super important for sellers. Look at here. So the number of pending properties that have multiple offers. Okay. So year to date, 32% of the homes had multiple offers. As of just today, we're at about 29%, and that's just for April so far. When we take a look at how many actually had an inspection, just a little over half, a little under half right now. Absolutely situation normal. And really at the end of the day, what this means is we're still seeing multiple offers, okay? In other words, what that is saying is roughly half the homes that go pended had multiple offers. Now, it's not 100% like it was a couple of years ago, But still, 50% is still an excellent number. Then when we talk about number of inspections, so half or just a little bit more than half of the homes that went under contract also had an inspection contingency. All right, that again is about on target. So let's take a look at our next set of pended metrics. We have how many of them actually had a financing contingency? Well, simple enough, 72%. And for the month of April so far, 73%. That's about right. I would agree with that. That means that the other 27%, 28% had or was a cash offer. Okay. Again, that's about spot on. How many of them had escalations? Look at that. 12%. Hey, isn't that interesting? Now, when we come back here, we just said, hey, listen, a third of the homes had multiple offers, but yet only 12% have escalating addendums, meaning that they say, hey, I'm going to offer this, but I'm willing to go up to here. Okay, that's what that addendum does in an incremental level, whether it's $5,000, $10,000, $500, whatever it might be. Only 12% had escalations. A third of them had multiple offers. Super interesting. Naturally, 72% had, are getting financing. For sellers, keep that in mind as you're considering pricing. Overpricing is without a doubt the kiss of death. It is. You will stay on market. You're going to get the most amount of money with giving up with the least contingencies in the first 7 to 10 days. Just remember that. Anything beyond that, the table switches. The buyer's now in the driver's seat. Not only more closer to price and terms and contingencies and timelines. Okay? Just saying, keep that in mind. All right. So let's roll over to new construction. New construction is still, I would say, kind of flat. There's nothing super exciting happening with it. Super flat. As far as the pricing and volume and whatnot, we're doing just okay. Let's pull up that chart. We're doing just okay. All right. So yeah, it shows that we have, 26% more inventory year over year. Whatever. Really, at the end of the day, it's 500 homes. It's not even that. It's 400 and some odd homes, right? So naturally, when we have less inventory, we have less new on market. Our pendants and our solds are going to be off just a little bit. And in fact, when you look at the chart down below, you can see that almost everything is in the negative, but not horribly so. Okay. Just listen, with more new, or what we call new listings, but resale versus new construction, look, people are not wanting to pay the premium. They want bigger lots. They want to be more, they want to have more choice over areas versus new construction, which, as we all know, is in certain pocket areas or becoming more and more remote because of, land available to develop. So that is a normal situation. So what we're seeing, everything is flat. Are we seeing it just absolutely go down? No. Are we seeing some adjustments? Sure. Is it normal? Yeah, I would say so. I'm not, there's nothing alarming that I am seeing out there that you need to, that should keep you up at night in any straight, in any stretch. So, when we take a look at bank-owned homes, again, the same thing. And in fact, bank-owned homes, super, super boring. Look, we have hardly any inventory that is out there. First of all, banks are going to do their paint, carpet, and vinyl. They're going to get everything set up, where they're going to get market value because there's just so few homes available out there. And in fact, some of the metrics, when we take a look at it, when we take a look at just the month of March, in fact, let's just pull it up. It's going to be the bottom chart here. Hang on. Look at that. Just the month of March, 2024, versus 2025, right? Okay, look at that. It says we're up, almost 20% for inventory. Well, that was 13 homes. Woohoo. As far as new, we had 6 more this year than we did last year. Woohoo. As far as sold, look at that. Hey, look, we had 6 more this year than we had last year. Yay. 11. Look at that. It says 40% increase in pended homes for bank-owned homes. That's 11 homes. So that just shows you when we're dealing with such tiny tiny numbers. And in fact, year to date in the upper right hand, look at that. The difference between new on market this year and last year to date, one home. That's nothing. So if you're looking for really great opportunities, there's definitely, better opportunities out there in different areas. Just make sure you're working with somebody that understands and realizes and how to capture those. Off-market homes is a classic opportunity that is there. Listen, it's going to be an absolutely stunning day today. Get out there, have some fun, be safe. Smash that subscribe button. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments down below, and I'd love to respond to you guys, answer your questions. In the meantime, I'll see you on the next video. Take care.